Hi, I'm Justin Sarkis, Research Development Coordinator in the School of Biological Sciences. Think about the last journal article abstract you read. What kind of information were you looking for? Most likely, you were trying to determine whether the article was relevant to your research interests. But what if that abstract could also give you insight into an entire research area? With dimensions, that abstract becomes a window to see data like which researchers are publishing in your area, what journals they are publishing in, and what academic impact trends look like over several years. Okay, so here we are in Dimensions. We're not logged in, and I have an abstract here that I would like to get some data on. So I just copy the abstract, and I paste it right up here. Now, before I press return, I want to make sure that I'm on abstract search instead of a keyword search. Once we're on abstract search, I just hit return. Okay, so Dimensions has now, and you'll first notice that the first article that it's pulled is that same article from the NIH website, Pattern Separation in the Hippocampus. That's the first article. That's a 100% match. If we go here to Analytical Views, we can answer some of those questions that we posed before. For example, if we want to know what researchers are publishing in our area, we can go to the Researchers tab. And here we get a list of the top researchers, and it's ordered by the number of publications. There are ways to search by citations or the mean of citations, but you would have to download the data into Excel in order to do those specific analyses. So Dimensions will just order this by most publications in this research field. Another question we asked was, what journals are people publishing in this research area? If we click on source titles, we'll get that information. Similar to the researchers tab, this page will give us information on which journals have the most publications in this research area. So the journal Hippocampus is number one with 385 publications within over several years. And you'll notice that the list of journals ranges from archives to some of the more substantial journals that you would recognize. Another question that we asked was, what kind of academic impact trends can we see over several years? Well, to answer that, we would go to the Overview tab. And what this is showing us is the number of publications in each year over about 9 years. So we could see the general trend here is that the number of publications in this field is increasing, and quite dramatically from 2011 to 2015. You'll notice from 2019 to present is represented with a dotted line, and that's because 2020 has not concluded yet, but this is where we're at around this time. Now, I noted that this is data on several years. So what about if you just want a couple years? Well, Dimensions has filters on the left-hand side of the screen. So let's say we only want to look at publications from 2015 to 2020. Well, we can limit those. And we'll pull over Analytical Views to get a bigger screen and go to Overview. And we'll see that Dimensions is only representing the data from 2015 to 2020, which is exactly what we selected in the left-hand column. There are other filters that you can use to narrow down your search, and you can tinker around with it on your own. This is the free version of Dimensions, so you have access to this by going to app.dimensions.ai. And you can tinker around with researcher. You can even search for a specific researcher here, and so on. Now I'm going to turn my attention to grants. What data would we get with the same abstract with a grant view? I'm switching to this tab in my web browser because I'm logged in with Dimensions Plus. So this is an upgraded version that allows you to see things like grants, patents, clinical trials, and policy documents. Well, today I'm going to tell you more about grants. So let's go back to the NIH website and copy our abstract. Paste it in there, switch to abstract search, click back in and press return. Okay, so Dimensions has done its search, and we have very similar types of data as the publications. In the grants tab, We'll see that the first grant that it pulled is not the same as the first article that was pulled in the publications because we're pulling different data. So now we're pulling grants. We'll go to the analytical views, and we might want to ask a question like, which sponsors are funding research in this area? Well, we can do that with the funders tab. Now this page is organized by the dollar amount. So the most money spent by a sponsor over several years. And we can see that the National Institute of Mental Health sponsors most of the research in this area, which makes sense. Another big question you might ask is which researchers are getting funded? So as opposed to the research organizations, we might want to know specific researchers for perhaps collaboration projects or to get a consultant on a grant. And we can see again, organized by dollar amount, who is getting the most money to do research in this area. And the last tab I want to show you in the grants view is the overview. I'm going to use this drop-down menu to look at the funding amount. I want to know how much money is spent in each year in this research area. And I can see there's a generally increasing trend of money being spent on research. You can put in specific years that you would like to look at over here for this graph, but I'm going to show you how to use the filters on the left again to narrow this down. So we only want to look at 2015 to present. And again, it would only give us data from 2015 to present, and that would apply to the other tabs as well. So you can see, if you remember, we have a different list here under research organizations. Another thing we might want to look at is, instead of a 5-year period, we might only want to look at active grants. So I will clear our previous filter and narrow down by grant status and ongoing. This will give us the active grants. And then again, we can look at all these tabs with that filtered information. There are many unique ways to look at all of this grant and publication data. Dimensions ties it all together for us. To learn more about Dimensions, be sure to watch our upcoming videos. If there's something specific you want to learn, please send us your questions, and thanks for watching.